There's a blue Mazda in D as in David. We need that person to move, please, so we can let the person in front of that person out. Any hope on that one? They're probably walking in the park and having a lovely day. On that note, we will open up today's Music at Noon concert. How are you today? I can understand, not so good with the parking issue, right? I get that. I don't know what to tell you. Only that it has to get better. Okay, well, we're here to forget about all those things today, and we're here to think about some beautiful music, which we have today. Music that goes only back to the 20th century, to about the 1930s. But let me first tell you what we have for performers today. Mod Artists consists of 3 performers: Maquette Cooper on flute and alto flute, Deborah Pittman playing clarinet and Native American flute, and Carol Barnes on the piano. They've all played for Music at Noon over the years, but we haven't seen them for a few years because of COVID, so we welcome them back. The opening selection is entitled The Peacocks, and some of you will recognize this piece. It's a jazz standard that's been arranged. So please welcome our clarinetist and our pianist.
Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. We're pleased to see you here today, for those who are here, and welcome to all those live streamers who are listening from home this afternoon. So the next piece begins our sort of Native American section of the concert. And Kokopelli, of course, is a very famous legendary Hopi Indian. So I want to read you a little bit about the history. The Anasazi first carved Kokopelli images off cliff walls over 3,000 years ago. A symbol seen throughout the American Southwest, the humpbacked flute player has become an icon of the flute-playing world more recently and is depicted as a wandering trickster and with magical powers. In traditional lore, Kokopelli, sometimes is spelled with one L and sometimes two, is a multi-purpose deity depicted as a rain priest and fertility god, as well as a symbol of joy and happiness. According to the Hopi legend, Kokopelli visits villages playing his flute and carrying seeds in a backpack. Everyone sings and dances all night, but when the people awake the next morning, they found full-grown corn, pregnant young women, and the prankster is gone. When Kokopelli plays his flute, the sun comes out, the snow melts, the grass grows, the birds sing, and all the animals gather around to hear the music. The flute invokes the supernatural and carries messages from earth to God, while Kokopelli's humps carry gifts of life from the supernatural to man. Kokopelli by Catherine Hoover.
Thank you. So the next piece is an excerpt of a piece that I wrote along with my colleague, Laurie Friedman, and we were really fortunate to have a New York Off-Broadway showcase of this piece back in 2006. The music was written by Jeff Adler. And I would like to give you a little sampling of that. Jeff wrote this beautiful piece called The Endless Boundary, and that's a place where our characters in the piece that we've written exist. So a little introduction. Harriet and Anne, A Journey of Music, Visual Images, Movement, and the Spoken Word, looks at the indomitable strength of the human spirit as told from the perspective of two women from very different times and different cultural struggles. This piece is about Harriet Tubman and Anne Frank. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an introductory paragraph before the theme happens in the piece, and then I'm going to play the theme on 3 different Native American flutes as it is in the actual piece. I'm going to use my standard flute. I'm going to use a drone flute, which can actually play 2 notes at one time, and then I'm going to close that section with the bass flute. And I am really fortunate to be joined in this piece by my colleague Carol Barnes, who's going to play a drum, a cajon for me to accompany me. So it begins. There is a place called the Endless Boundary where the souls of the human spirit wander. Soaring amongst the invisible spirits, Harriet and Anne are free to be of the darkness and with the darkness. No harm comes to them here because it is safe. They are secure, content, and possess the ultimate gift the universe has to offer, freedom. After the improvisation, I will read the closing. It's not that my pain is worse than your pain. It's not that my pain is better than your pain. Pain is pain, and needn't be measured, weighed, and certainly not compared. Your pain and mine is too vast, too dense, too difficult, too painful, and the comparison would do us all a disservice. No, I'd rather compare the spirit, the fortitude of the spirit, the resilience of the spirit which found its way through a dark wood without a light, which found its way past ignorance and fear, around ignorance and fear, above ignorance and fear. The spirit which found a way through it all and above all it all, found a way to lead by example through the written word, through the thought and the deed. The indomitable spirit which now resides in the endless boundary. Thank you. And I am so glad that Carol decided to do this with me, or else I would have had to call for volunteers from the audience. So the next piece is by American composer James DeMars, and he has become pretty much the big honcho with regards to writing music for Native American flutes and traditional orchestral instruments. He has written lots and lots of pieces for Carlos Nakai, who is one of the biggest names in Native American flute, and not to forget our own local Mary Youngblood, who is also amazing, and a multiple Grammy Award winner. I actually took a few lessons with Mary. Colors Fall is a piece for silver flute and native flute, and the artistic challenge is to reconcile the different styles of these two instruments. So basically what you'll hear is the flute plays lots of runs and florid passages, while the Native American flute is generally a little bit more subdued, except for in the very beginning, and sticks in my own lane, let's just say. And except there's a couple of points in the piece where the two instruments come together and play the same rhythm, the same notes. And so this is Colors Fall. Okay, The World According to Earl is a piece that I wrote a few years ago about my dad, who was quite the character. And it started out as a performance piece, just myself, my music, my narration, and a slideshow on the screen. And I realized during that whole quarantine thing that if this piece was going to survive me, that I was going to have to turn it into a film. So I'm excited to say that I recently received an NEA grant to create this film. And today I'm going to share with you two little segments from that piece. A movement called She's Leaving Home, about when I left home at 18, and one called Food, Glorious Food. My dad was an amazing cook. Silently closing their bedroom door, leaving a note that she hoped would say more. She's leaving home, bye-bye. I left home at the age of 18. I just returned from my second glorious summer at the Aspen Music School. Returned to discover that I could no longer tolerate roaches crawling across my face as I slept at night, that I could no longer watch my parents' weekly payola to the cops, could no longer participate in it when home alone, that I feared many of the classmates I had grown up with, that the growing consensus of my mom's card-playing buddies was I would be there with my parents forever. My sister would have lots of suitors and marry, but I would be there forever. Returning home, I knew that if I didn't leave now, I would be there forever. So I lied. I lied to my mother when I said I'd spoken to my father and he said it was okay for me to get a studio apartment. I lied to my father when I said I'd spoken to my mom and she said it was okay. And I lied to them both when I said I was just getting a small studio to practice in, teach lessons, and maybe sleep in occasionally when it was too late to travel home alone after rehearsals or concerts at the college. I used to be a very accomplished liar. I also had a very active fantasy life. As a kid, I tried to prime my dreams to think of some specific idea or event long and hard so it might influence my dreams. But sometimes when I think back, there are certain events that I'm not sure if they happened or not. What I do know for sure is that on a Saturday morning, as the day began, silently closing their door, leaving a note, I left home and broke my father's heart.
Kids never knew that I could cook until my wife went blind. I was never home long enough. I was officer's cook in the Navy. But cooking at home, that was woman's work. The truth is, I love to cook and to watch people eat it.
My students were invited to Carnegie Hall to perform as part of a band festival. I decided to meet them in Manhattan and take them home to Brooklyn to meet Earl. They'd heard so many stories about this legendary giant, they insisted on meeting him.
I cooked them a 12-course meal. I even made 5 courses for Kelly, the vegetarian or something. Cooked for 2 days. Put the food in the warmers and said, go ahead, knock yourself out. My food is amazing. And I know it.
Yes, Earl's food was legendary. Unfortunately, he was not often willing to give out his recipes. His favorite saying was, I put my foot in it. I guess toe jam was the secret ingredient. Whatever he used, it worked. Once I tried to remake a delicious cornbread recipe that we'd had for Thanksgiving. I called him on Sunday. Hey, Dad, can you give me the recipe for that delicious cornbread?
Okay. Get a pencil and write this down. 1 stick of butter. 1 cup of American grated cheese. 1 cup cheddar cheese. 2 eggs. 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise to keep it moist. And a half box of frozen broccoli just to make it healthy.
This is what his cornbread looked like. Now, what you can't see in this photo is the half-inch of oil I poured off the top when no one was watching. As he listed the ingredients, I'd done a makeover in my head and was quite proud of my concoction with its substitutions. Fat-free mayo, tofu cheese, egg whites, and a pat of margarine. Is margarine even food? Later that evening, I made the mistake of calling Dad to tell him about my low-fat, healthy version. He was quite disgusted.
You did what to the recipe? Okay. Get a pencil and paper.
This time I did write it down, just in case he made me repeat the list.
Debbie, go get the stuff and make the cornbread the right way. You hear me, girl?
Yes, Daddy. I was 40 at the time and packed way too many pounds on my 5'4" frame. In short, I truly did not need the delicious moist version.
Make the food the right way. Don't play with me, girl. And call me back, okay? I'll sit here and wait for the call.
He often said this, I'll sit here and wait for the call. What did I do? Well, although I did not want to deceive my dad, I waited the proper interval, called him back and said I had made it the right way. It was delicious, and he was right. And as I ate my dry alien cornbread, we went on to have a great conversation that day. Valerie Coleman is an amazing flutist and composer. She was the founder of the Imani Winds, and she is growing rapidly to become one of the best known composers in America. She wrote this piece. We're going to do a few movements of Portraits of Langston. The early 1900s was a new era for African American culture. For the first time in American history, the disciplines of visual art, music, and literature simultaneously took a turn to celebrate African American artists. As a result, the Harlem Renaissance was born, and Langston Hughes was at the center of the Harlem Renaissance. Portrait in Langston is a suite in 6 movements. We're doing 3. And is a take on Langston Hughes' poetic memories of Harlem and Europe, mostly Paris. And so he wrote, he collected excerpts from his own poems and some of his biography, and then they precede each movement. The first movement is Helen Keller. Can't remember if I'm supposed to stand or sit or where I am. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're only playing 3 movements: Helen Keller, Silver Rain, and Harlem Nights. Helen Keller by Langston Hughes. She, in the dark, found light, brighter than many ever see. She, within herself, found loveliness through the soul's own mastery. And now the world receives from her dower the message of strength and inner power. In time of silver rain, the earth puts forth new life again. Green grasses grow and flowers lift their heads, and all over the plain, the wonder spreads of life, of life, of life in the time of silver rain. The butterflies lift silken wings to catch a rainbow cry, and trees put forth new leaves to sing in joy beneath the sky. And down the roadway, passing boys and girls go singing too, in time of silver rain, when spring and life are new. The sounds of the Harlem night drop one by one into silence. The last piano is closed. The last Victrola ceases with the jazz boy blues. The last crying baby sleeps and the night becomes still as a whispering heartbeat. I toss without rest in the darkness, weary as the tired night. My soul empty as the silence, empty with a vague, aching emptiness, desiring, needing someone, something. I toss without rest in the darkness until the new dawn, wan and pale, descends like a white mist into the courtyard.
Well, hello? Hello, hello. Is it on? Okay.
Yes.
All right. We started with jazz. We're going to end with a little jazz. So we have The Blues by John Ritter for flute and clarinet to send you home.
Maud Artis, Maquette Cooper on flutes, Deborah Pittman, clarinet, Native American flute, and Carol Barnes on piano. Thank you for giving us a most unusual and refreshingly different concert. After 925 concerts, we need something different. And you did it. You did just the thing. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Great to see you again. Hope to see you back sometime soon. Next Wednesday, we have some nostalgia for you. How would you like to hear a swing band of about 15 people? Okay, however, that means parking lot's going to be impossible. You're welcome to try. However, let me tell you about the O Street parking garage at O and 13th, okay? 13th and O. Some people know about that already. You can park there. Yes, it costs a little bit of money, but you know, as we get closer to Christmas, we're going to have larger and larger audiences, and it's going to be more and more difficult for parking. So come expecting not to find a place, but if you go to the parking garage at O and 13th, I think that might work for you. So we hope to see you next time. Thanks for coming today. Have a great week ahead. Bye for now.
Yesterday I was very frightened about it. We've known each other since 71 or 72, yes. Oh my goodness. We go back almost back that far. Wow, wonderful. Music brings people together, doesn't it? It keeps you together. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming down. It was a pleasure. Oh, that was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming down. Thank you so much. My friend, that was good. Connie, playing against her. Oh, okay, yeah, I get it. They have my key just in case that doesn't happen. Beautiful clarinet music. Oh my gosh. So much. Oh, I'm going to watch it on YouTube. That's your own YouTube. Can I give you a hug? Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm surprised you're not surprised. I'm impressed that you keep them all straight. I didn't in the rehearsal this afternoon. We started so late, and the actor's like, you want to run through? I'm like, yes. Thank you. I brought my younger years. Yeah, I got it. And I really, the people who went to your together to practice. We practice in my No, you do. A beautiful one. Yeah, it's a decent sized band. It's my study and my a trio. Do you still, the hardest thing is